So I've done a few of these crazy DPM builds on the American cruisers, specifically the Des Moines, and actually the Salem I think works really well since this playstyle forces us to be a little further back. There's several different ways of getting reload on these ships. One of them involves making our concealment worse. There's a captain skill that actually gives us reload when somebody is spotted within our concealment range. So we want to boost or actually make our concealment worse to actually take advantage of that. So playing a radar ship like that can be a little difficult. The nice thing, of course, about most of these American cruisers is their concealment is very close to their radar range, allowing them to push up to caps and try and take control of matches that way. So if we're going all in on DPM, Salem has that nerf radar and that super heal. Even though it doesn't really heal that much when it comes to citadel damage and even full pens, it doesn't really work that well once we get to our third heal, let's say. But it's a really good option. But I had to try the Annapolis. The ship is absolutely ridiculous, right? You just get a whole nother Des Moines turret. It's amazing. And of course, the armor is much, much better. Here, I probably should have gone for a burst fire, honestly. I thought about it just a little bit too late. But this game is going to go right down to the wire. My absolute favorite type of game in World of Warships, where we actually don't have a blowout and our decisions do matter. And we're playing a bit of a hard build. This is not an easy ship to play. You notice all the people trying to shoot at us, although we haven't really taken all that much damage. Annapolis is quite a big ship, but it's a reasonably maneuverable one. And at longer ranges like this, it can do a decent job of dodging things. We'll also look at the armor scheme after, but the ship has a very, very weird citadel. There's a ton of spaced armor, and it's very, very skinny. That's actually going to help us a lot later on. But of course, this is going to be the main way you get damage in an American heavy cruiser, right? You're sitting behind an island, you're spamming over it with AG. Go totally safe, trying to get damage in on battleships. I'm going to do a pretty poor job of aiming for actually most of this game. This is one of my first games of the day when I was playing this match. So I got to get into the swing of things. It's still going to be really solid though. Trying to aim on the mini-map here. I kind of thought the curve first on the mini-map was in a bit of a different spot compared to where it showed up on my main screen. But I think I was just not looking at it quite right. Also, the dispersion, not amazing on these American heavy cruisers, which is unfortunate. But given their DPM, I can kind of understand, especially the AP, right? We have the super heavy AP from the Des Moines, which gives us improved pen angles and reasonably good armor pen to longer ranges. The penetration doesn't really fall off too much at range. And the HE, of course, is really good at burning down battleships, assuming we're actually going to be able to hit someone with it. As for the other super cruisers, obviously it's a competition between the Annapolis and the Condi. I'm really not sure which one I enjoy more. They're both really, really awesome. I think Condi is a little more interesting when it comes to using its special gimmick, this burst salvo fire, since you do have a reload booster to almost completely negate the downside of this burst fire, that extremely long reload afterwards. Annapolis has to get that battleship style reload if it wants to use that salvo fire. So it's a little bit trickier to use this salvo fire on the Annapolis, a little bit more difficult. We get that radar impact, and something else about the Annapolis, I find it a little more flexible, allowing myself to play a little bit closer. Condi feels very committed if I push in, and because of that, I tend to play at range a lot of the game because I don't want to fully commit myself, take a ton of damage, maybe die early on, and then the game gets really close at the end, and I could have stayed alive and maybe carried my team to a win. In fact, we'll look at a game like that maybe tomorrow, but certainly this week sometime. We're going to have a really, really good Condi game where that patience really, really does pay off. It pays off in the Annapolis as well, but we can be a little bit more aggressive. We are looking for opportunities to push up to islands. We're trying to use this cover to gain some, well, free HE damage into battleships like we've been doing for the last little bit, or pushing up to get a radar. Like I mentioned earlier on in the video at the beginning, our concealment's pretty bad, so we're actually not going to get a ton of value out of our radar into these DDs. Fortunately, we're just in range of this Groningen. Although he does play this extremely well, he seems to know exactly where I'm at. I mean, I'm shooting at him, but does a really good job of limiting the number of salvos that I'm actually able to fire. I actually think I end up missing this next one. Tag him just a little bit. So, well done to a tier 9. Tier 9 against Super Ship is always not It's always a really, really rough time, but this Groningen did pretty well, I think. But coming back to the Condi versus Annapolis, I think I do enjoy playing the Annapolis just a little bit more. The better base reload and the radar giving me more battle impact in a variety of ways, allowing me to actually impact caps a little bit easier. I tend to enjoy that playstyle a little bit more. And you guys know that even from like a lot of my DD games, right? I tend to enjoy ships where I can contest caps or areas in the map. And Annapolis does that, where Condi, it's a little bit tricky. But here's a good example of using burst fire, right? Although we do end up missing. I do think I just underled that slightly. But burst fire on the Annapolis isn't a bad thing to use. Just gotta know when to do it. When somebody's about to disappear behind an island, when somebody's just about to go undetected. A lot of times in open water that can happen with destroyers or even some lighter cruisers, that kind of thing at longer ranges. You get that one last burst in on people. Of course, at the end of a radar, that can also be a good opportunity. Or if you yourself are about to go behind an island. A lot of opportunities for this salvo fire. And it's really, really effective, but you just don't want to use it when you want your maximum DPM on someone. So you're not going to really see me use it against that group wreck that was pushing me, also against this Azumo now. I don't really want to use this boost because I'm just going to be left sitting in front of a battleship with nothing to do for 30 seconds. That doesn't sound like a very appealing time to me. So that's going to be the difficult thing going from Des Moines to Annapolis. It's figuring out how to get the best value and not getting baited in too hard by the burst fire. It's really, really good, but honestly, the power of the ship really just comes from the extra gun and the DPM that you can possibly get. For now, though, we actually have a reasonable reload. 4-second reload is pretty nuts. Unfortunately, the DDs did trade. Like I said, that Groningen, I mean, he limited the angles. I couldn't even get a shot there to help our Z52, which was pretty good by him. But our reload's pretty good already, right? We're around 4 seconds. We're looking for Halsey. That is another buff that we want to get on our American cruisers. As soon as we get a Confederate, that gives us a 20% reload, I believe. And that really takes things up a notch. So we'll see if we can get that towards the end of this game. Of course, Adrenaline Rush is helping us out as well. And right underneath where the rudder is, you can actually see that captain buff. That means someone's within our detection, therefore we're actually getting a reload buff. Against this Donskoy, though, I probably should have loaded HE. I was really relying on the improved pen angles, but obviously we're just a little bit too sharp. So yeah, shooting HE here would have been much better. The other thing I could have done towards the end of this game, just to talk about how to secure the win here in this 2v2, is just hit my nose into the island on my right, don't come out into open water, take the fight against the Donskoy, and then just let the Condi be in open water. Of course, I'm going to die here now that I'm out in open water against a Condi. We're not going dark because of our commander build. So we have to try and kill this guy, or at least try and do enough damage that our Conqueror can take him out once we go down. So ideally, I probably should have. The right play certainly would have been to stay behind the island and not come out. But I was a little greedy for damage. And as you can see, we have activated Confederate. And yeah, the DPM is pretty disgusting. Just as we're about to die, we get one final burst off. And that's a lot of HP, but this ship is pretty disgusting with AP against broadsides. We didn't even need citadels. So 223,000 damage in a pretty awesome carry by the Annapolis. I really, really do enjoy these two cruisers specifically, Annapolis and Condi. Over 3k base, truly just an awesome game. This ship is so much fun to play. So just to show you the armor here a little bit, it's basically Des Moines armor, right? So 27 on the front, 30 on the sides and deck armor, 170 on the side, nothing too crazy really. It's just when you strip away some of this outer armor, that's your citadel. So there's like a ton of space in here that a lot of shells get trapped in. It is 15 millimeters only, right? So battleships are just going to overmatch right through that. But it's such a weird thing that a lot of times when you go bow into battleships, a lot of the time, they're going to have a difficult time to actually even hit this point. It's really, really strange kind of trying to actually do damage to this thing as a battleship at closer ranges. And broadside on, a lot of cruisers at maybe mid ranges, if they have just enough pen to get through this armor belt, and then not quite enough, or the shell detonates in this little space, they're going to do no damage. It's kind of shockingly tanky in that way. And as you saw, it's also reasonably maneuverable, so we can actually dodge some shells, at least in the early game, like you saw. This is the build, though. This is how we got that sub 3 second reload on the Annapolis. It's pretty fun, although no concealment, right? No superintendent even, so you notice we were lacking some healing. It's not a build that I would really recommend most people would play, but it sure is fun when you get the right game that allows you to take advantage of it. And of course, if you're able to actually activate the Confederate on Halsey. This is the easiest way to gain reload, of course, on any ship in the game. Once you're at higher tier, this upgrade slot 6 is a great way to do that. But you actually lose main battery turret traverse speed, which is pretty sad. I'll look at that in a second. Honestly, though, I tend to enjoy main gun range. I think that just makes this ship a little bit more flexible, and we, of course, have plenty of DPM, even without the reload upgrade, and you get some turret traverse back. So I'm not really sure what the exact meta build you would want to run, but this meme build, even if you wanted to run steering gears along with propulsion, even harder ship to hit. It's a lot of fun playing this insane DPM role, but also it can be very, very difficult on some of those open maps. You'll notice there wasn't subs or carriers in this game, so it's a lot of things that have to go right to make this build work. But it is fun when it works out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video with the DPM Annapolis. Thank you very much for watching this video. It's 2023 now. Happy New Year, everyone, by the way. I hope it goes extremely well for you. I'm really hoping that we just have a normal year, honestly. That's my hope for 2023. I'll definitely be here to make some videos on World of Warships for you, and hopefully we can have some fun. So thank you very much for watching again, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.